When I was recently visiting a friend and watching him play Breath of the Wild, while discussing the game, he came up with the idea of comparing the cost of arrows to the selling price of cooked food. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. This video is about a single question. Is hunting animals actually worth it? If you trade rupees for healing, then there's a simple answer: yes. However, I want to analyze hunting more from a perspective of monetary gain or loss. How much money do we get as a result of hunting, cooking afterwards and eventually selling the cooked food, compared to our investment of rupees into arrows at the beginning of our hunt? I'll compare dishes for different types of meat and their selling prices to the buying price of arrows and see if we're having a net gain or a net loss of rupees. Of course, this video doesn't take the fact into account that you can hit an animal with a melee weapon and thus save arrows, thereby disrupting this calculation and assumptions here. The same goes for passively collecting ingredients. This would naturally also save arrows, so we don't use them while picking up materials from the ground, or even farm them from enemies. This video also doesn't take into consideration killing multiple animals with one arrow, with a bomb arrow for example. Of course, there are animals which are much harder to hit than others, so we have to take that into account as well when approaching such a situation. For the sake of simplicity, I also didn't consider dishes made from two different types of meat. I'll also compare stronger to weaker bows, meaning if you have to kill an animal in 1, 2 or 3 shots, or even more, to get its meat. This also somewhat accommodates for missing shots. It doesn't matter if we hunt an animal that has double the health than another one, or if we miss every other shot. We use the same amount of arrows to get the same amount of food, thereby decreasing efficiency by the same margin. It gets a little bit more complicated when an animal drops more than one food item, which often is the case, but we can approximate this by dividing through the number of arrows we used. For example, if we use 2 arrows to get 2 raw bird drumsticks while hunting a heron, it's the same as if we had 1 arrow to get 1 raw bird drumstick from another animal. I didn't consider fish, maybe in a later video. Having to buy arrows instead of farming them from enemies can indeed be necessary. In my Breath of the Wild playthrough some years ago, I mainly played as an archer, meaning I used arrows a lot. I was consistently low on normal arrows and therefore, even late game, had to take several shopping sprees through many towns and settlements to buy up all stocks of arrows I could find. So the notion of buying every arrow you fire used in this video isn't as absurd as it may seem in the beginning. Here's a list of animals and ingredients I considered in this video. Raw meat is dropped by carnivore bears, mountain goats, water buffaloes and woodland boars. Raw prime meat is dropped by cold-footed wolves, great-horned rhinoceroses, grizzly bears, carnivore bears, Morado wolves, mountain bucks, mountain does, red tusk boars, tabantha mooses, and wasteland coyotes. Raw gourmet meat is dropped by cold-footed wolves, great-horned rhinoceroses, grizzly bears, Morado wolves, tabantha mooses, wasteland coyotes, and water buffaloes. Raw bird drumsticks are dropped by blue-winged herons, bright-chested ducks, mountain crows, pink herons, seagulls, and wood pigeons. Raw bird thighs are dropped by Elden ostriches, hot feather pigeons, islander hawks, rainbow pigeons, and white pigeons. Raw whole birds are dropped by Eldon ostriches and white pigeons. Acorns are dropped by squirrels. Chicolo tree nuts are dropped by blue sparrows, common sparrows, golden sparrows, rainbow sparrows, red sparrows, and sand sparrows. This means I analyze meat skewers and sauteed nuts as dishes. With that out of the way, let's finally take a look. There's no discount for buying a bundle of arrows. Buying a bundle of 5 arrows is exactly as expensive as buying 5 single arrows. The price for a dish consisting of 1 ingredient doesn't scale linearly to the price of a dish consisting of 5 ingredients, meaning the latter dish doesn't sell for 5 times the rupees compared to the former dish. Here is a table for reference of all cooked dishes and their prices. And with this, we've already reached my full calculation. Here it is. A net profit is marked in green, a net loss is marked in red, and a zero sum is marked in black. I'll calculate the sum by taking the selling price of a cooked dish and subtracting from it the cost of 1 arrow, multiplied by the number of arrows used to kill 1 target, multiplied by the amount of animals hunted. Therefore, the amount of ingredients used in the sold dish. As you can see, the more ingredients a dish has, the more expensive it gets, and the more profitable the hunting becomes. Here's the calculation for 1, 2, and 3 arrows used per target. And here's the calculation for 4, 5, and 6 arrows used per target. As you can see, the results of the calculations become more negative with more arrows used on 1 target. So, what's our conclusion? Is it worth hunting animals with bought arrows? Yes, it in general is. However, there are some small caveats. Don't hunt squirrels and small birds for profit. These animals are too hard to hit, and the cooked food, sauteed nuts, is worth very little rupees. Only shoot animals with more than 3 arrows if they give more than 1 ingredient upon death. This way, the amount of shot arrows is used more efficiently by gaining more food upon the target's death. In other words, don't use too much arrows and don't miss too often. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey there, I have a Patreon page now. If you like my videos and want to support me, you can go check it out and donate a bit.